From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Rob Westgate. Economists are expecting little to no movement in Canada's inflation numbers when January data is released this week. However, they do say the underlying change in prices will be clouded by a full month of the government's GST break. Statistics Canada's Consumer Price Index for the first month of 2025 is set to be released on Tuesday. Canada's leading LGBTQ+ advocacy organization is boycotting travel to the U.S. due to concerns about how non-binary staff might be treated at the border crossings after Trump's election. Egal Canada says it will not be taking part in a major UN event on gender next month in New York over concerns that staff will have difficulty getting into the U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order declaring that Washington only recognizes two genders, male and female. A winter storm warning has been extended for parts of Ontario as a second day of heavy snowfall is expected to further blanket the region today. Environment Canada is forecasting 15 to 25 additional centimeters of snow for Toronto, with similar conditions also expected elsewhere across southwestern Ontario. Pretty much the same conditions are expected in southeastern Ontario, where an added 20 to 30 centimeters of snow can be expected to come down in the Ottawa area. Monday's deadline for the final installment of the Liberal leadership race fee is fast approaching, but it sounds like the remaining 5 candidates will be able to top off their $350,000 investment with the remaining $125,000 due. The frontrunner in the polls, Mark Carney, also appears to be the frontrunner in donations gathered, with more than $1.9 million reportedly raised so far. There are just over 3 weeks to go in the contest, and the party will choose the next prime minister on March 9th. South of the border now, where a mudslide in the Sierra Madre Mountains of California have left a mess in the village foothills following this week's heavy rainstorm. Jill Forder lives on a mud-covered road and says her home was damaged by water and debris.
It's exhausting, and I'm trying to figure out what methods work the best and the quickest. Oh my God, this is so much worse than I ever could have imagined.
Crews spent most of yesterday trying to clear roads for the more than 10,000 residents. About half dozen more roads remain closed as of this morning. And still stateside, the avian flu continues to wreak havoc, pushing the price of eggs even higher. Reporter Alexis Christoforis has more.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the price of eggs more than doubling in the past year, sending the average price for a dozen eggs to $4.95. Shortages coast to coast, from long lines for fresh eggs in California to empty shelves in New York. Lawmakers in Nevada suspending a cage-free law to meet demand.
Nearly 159 million birds have been slaughtered since the bird flu outbreak began back in 2022 to help limit virus spread. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, temperatures were high at puck drop between Canada and the U.S. at the Four Nations Face-Off tournament in Montreal. The U.S.'s Matthew Tkachuk fought Canadian Brandon Hagel. American Brady Tkachuk dropped the gloves with Canadian Sam Bennett. And 6 seconds later, Team USA's JT Miller scrapped with Canadian Colton Parayko. Ultimately, it was a loss for the Canadian squad, 3-1. Now over to the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. Nancy Martin's team from Saskatoon improved to 2-0 with an 8-6 win over Jane DeCarlo's crew from PEI. Team Canada's Rachel Homan also improved to 2-0 with a 10-7 win over Northern Ontario's Krista McCarville. And finally out onto the greens, where Patrick Rogers played some of his best golf, shooting a 4-under-68 at the Genesis Invitational, giving him a one-shot lead over Denny McCarty going into the final round at Torrey Pines. The top Canadian, Nick Taylor, is in a 3-way tie for 13th at 2 under, having shot a 69 on the day. From the Canadian Press, I'm Rob Westgate.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.